Well, transporting patients who are infected with potentially deadly illnesses is dangerous work.
But there's actually a company in Cartersville, Georgia, that specializes in just that. Atlanta News First anchor Rick Fobaum spent some time at their headquarters recently, and he joins us now with more on this.
That's right. This is a company called Phoenix Air, and its home base is in the regional Cartersville Airport in Bartow County. We do not have confirmation at this point that Phoenix Air played a role in the transport of these hantavirus patients, but it's a job that few other companies would be able to handle. Now, I went to Phoenix Air's headquarters recently to talk to them about their daring rescue operation of two Ebola-affected Americans back in 2014. In that case, the company was hired by the U.S. government to fly into West Africa, pick up the Americans, and fly them to Atlanta, where they were successfully treated at Emory. Phoenix Air has a fleet of specially modified aircraft called Medical Interior Air Ambulances. These include Learjets and 3 Gulfstream 3Gs, all capable of transporting patients along with all the equipment needed to protect the flight crew and medical personnel who treat the patients while they're in flight. Phoenix Air designed a portable plastic tent that they call Aeromedical Biological Containment Systems. Now, the patients go into this tent for the duration of the flight. A specially trained flight nurse wears layers of PPE, personal protective equipment, and is able to enter the containment tent for short periods in order to care for the patient until the plane lands. Again, we do not have confirmation that Phoenix Air was involved in transporting these Americans, but it would not be surprising. The company is in a very select club of air medical transport companies with the ability to pull off a mission like this. They've done it before, directing successful missions from their headquarters in Cartersville, Georgia. Back to you guys.